The minute she did, Mia knew she had just messed up another day. She had sworn to herself in the mirror that today would be the day she changed. But of course, the moment she was bumped into, their resolution settled. It was supposed to be easy. All she had to do was talk to someone without messing up. But no. Of course, the moment she had landed on the ground, she totally ignored the guy she had bumped into, who had probably been trying to help her up and had left. She knew she should have said it was fine and maybe have accepted his help. But of course, her mind had to go haywire then. And instead of accepting the help like any other normal person, she hadn't even looked, had promptly stacked everything that had fallen, and had immediately left. I am such an idiot, she thought. Why do I always do this? He probably thought I was rude. Realizing that there was no use in rethinking about it now, she set off to school again. She had already been late, and she didn't want to get another scolding. Classes happened as usual. At one point, the class teacher had asked them a tricky question. The class was silent for a while. No one seemed to know the answer, and some didn't seem to care, based on the small murmurs of conversation Mia heard behind her. She herself had an answer in her mind. Should she raise her hand? She looked on both sides from the corners of her eyes one at a time, waiting to see if someone else would answer. I should just raise my hand. I think my answer is correct. But just as she attempted to lift her hand, it came back down. But what if it's wrong? She mentally shook her head. That's why you're here, to learn. So just raise your hand. Her mind screamed. She had been about to raise her hand again when a person besides her raised their hand and provided the same answer and got it right. Near sign. At least I know the answer is correct. But even so, she felt a bit hollow in her chest, knowing she could have gotten it right too. It's fine, she thought. I'll do it next time. Although this too had been a next time. Mia sighed again. She just wanted to speak out. Why was it so hard? She was completely fine with her close friends and family, but when it came to the outsiders, it was like there was a barrier between her and them, and she found it difficult to communicate. No matter how many pep talks and motivational quotes she gives herself, she always found herself at the first point once again. In her mind, she imagined a moment where she had raised her hand and had gotten the answer correct. It wouldn't have been much, but it would have provided her a way of conveying to herself that she wasn't being slighted. Mia had always wanted to speak out, to say what she wanted to say, when she wanted to say it. But unfortunately, no matter what she tells herself, that she can do it, that she was just being self conscious. At the very last minute, her brain almost always freezes and she can't do what she wanted to do. She sighed. She just wanted to be herself. Was there so much to ask? During lunch, she was eating with her best friend Lillian, a girl who had the eyes of a vulture. Literally, nothing ever escaped her sight. It was probably the reason she was also banned from some games. You wanted to raise your hand, didn't you, Mia? Of course, she had noticed. Of course, I could have raised my hand, but I was too busy pretending to be interested in the ceiling. Mia worded with sarcasm. Lillian just replied, "Now, if only you used that tone in class." Mia elbowed her, saying, "If so, I would have been sent out of class." But she knew the truth in what Lillian said. She could easily converse with people she was close with. like her family and best friends. They even said that she was too snarky for her own good. If only she could be like that with others. It was one of the few things that Mia desired. Instead of saying that, she just smiled and said, I like to say my words for when they really matter. Trust me, it's a quality. Lillian just gave her an amused look and said, Right, who exactly are you trying to fool? Me or yourself? Mia's response just munches on her lunch. Lillian really knew her too well. After lunch, classes commenced as usual. However, Mia, who sat next to the window, felt a sudden wind pass through it and ruffled her hair. Mia immediately pushed a few strands off her face and tried to pat the other parts down, only for them to get ruffled by another breeze. Frustrated, she wondered how the others were being so quiet. It was only then did she realize that the wind was coming from only her window. Even the ones closest to hers had small breezes flying through them. Just as this dawned to her, the wind completely stopped. She turned around to the window, but everything remained calm. What was that? Nia thought. Just thinking about it sent a chill down her spine for some reason. She immediately went back to listening to their teacher. Once classes had ended, Mia and Lillian parted ways at the gate. They lived in opposite sides from the school. During the walk home, Mia returned to the spot she had been bumped into in the morning close to the bridge and remembered the incident, and once again wondered what the guy must have thought about her. Suddenly, though, she feels the wind pick up again, blowing strands of her hair and some twigs and leaves around. This time, though, it came from everywhere, but the sudden nature of it still spooked her, and she hurried home. She had just entered the house when she suddenly felt the smell of something burning. The source of the smell was soon revealed to be a charcoal colored cake in the hands of her grandmother. Her grandmother just looked at her and gave her one of her heartwarming smiles and says, Oh Mia, you're back. How is school? Mia finally took her eyes off the burnt cake and said, Same as always, but what happened? I've never seen you burn anything, Grandma. Her grandmother just smiled, saying, Oh, I just fell asleep after putting the cake in the oven. Nothing to be bothered about. I just had to make another one. Her grandmother sighed and got back to work. It's a bother making the cake again. I need to make 3 of them for tomorrow's party at the Senior Citizens Club. Mia looked around to see her grandfather sleeping on a chair outside. Will Grandpa be going too? The minute she said that, both she and her grandmother looked at each other and stifled a laugh. Definitely not. He would prefer to stay at home sleeping through the day. Mia then went to her room, calling out to her grandmother that she'll come to help with the baking. Once he was done changing, she was just about to go back to the kitchen when she realized her good luck charm was still in her bag. It was a four-leaf clover keychain, which had been the last present she had ever gotten from her parents, and she didn't even attach it to anything, fearing it would fall off, and always kept it inside something. However, when she dug into her bag, to her horror, she couldn't find it. She double checked it by dumping the content onto her bed and spreading it out, but to no avail. She immediately tried remembering where I could have been, and it hit her. When she had bumped into that guy that morning near the bridge, the content in her bag had slipped, and she had been in too much of a hurry and had gathered the stuff and ran off without double checking. No, 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 Mia muttered to herself, rushing out of her room. It had already been a whole day. What if it wasn't there anymore? She was about to take a phone in case she would need a light, only to realize it was low on battery and switched to a flashlight and immediately ran back telling her grandmother that she dropped something and would be back soon. Mia found herself near the bridge, searching for her charm, but it wasn't anywhere to be found. It was evening time now, and the sun was almost setting, but she didn't want to stop searching. Looking at the bridge and then the dried up river under it, she decided to give the place a try. For once, she was kind of glad the river had dried up. If not, it would have been harder to look. Bending down, she tried looking into the nooks and corners, but never found her charm. She was panicking now. She couldn't lose it. Just then, a small white butterfly flew down, fluttering around the area. Mia ignored it for a good while. It was just a butterfly. You get them everywhere. That was until, from the corner of her eye, the butterfly started to grow. A soft white glow that seemed to illuminate the area. Mia was temporarily shocked, but once again snapped out of it and started searching for her charm. Okay, a glowing butterfly, great. Either I'm going insane or I need glasses. Either way, now is not the time to get distracted by an insect glowing or not. The butterfly, still fluttering around in an instant, had floated onto a small nook at one corner of the river, and Mia, despite herself, looked at it, and her eyes widened when she saw what the glowing creature was on. My charm, she called out to no one in particular, and dashed to the spot the butterfly had been, and picked up her charm. She looked at it closely, turning it around her palm, and sighed in relief when she didn't find any damage. She turned back to look at the glowing white butterfly, which was now floating above her. Its light seemed to dim a bit, but then fluttered around Mia for a second or so before flying away. Mia hadn't realized she was following the insect until she had passed the bridge. Deciding to just follow the little guy a bit more, she follows it up to the forest. Mia turned back and realized just how far she was from home and that it was getting late. But when the butterfly flew into the forest, she just had to follow. So, she drew out her flashlight and found herself inside the forest. However, after a while of following, Mia lost track of the butterfly. She had just turned around for a minute, thinking she had heard something, only to turn back and find the glowing creature missing. She then realized that she was lost. Mia looked around for any path she had come from, but all of them looked the same, and she felt as if she was walking in circles. Mia groaned. This was not her day. She decided to walk back a little, but was unable to get anywhere. Mia was on the verge of losing it when she suddenly heard something. Did someone just yell? She turned around and heard another yell. Yes, someone was definitely there. After a moment of hesitation, she decides to follow the sound. Who in their right mind came into the forest this late? A bit. Oh wait, me. Mia sighs and follows the path the voice had come from. After a while, she comes across a caved-in area deeper inside the forest, and she saw a person inside a gap. She pointed her flashlight at that area, and the person seemed to instinctively blink, taken aback, and they suddenly yelled, Is someone there? Mia wondered if she should go further forward, but seeing as she had already exposed her flashlight, and seeing as the guy didn't seem to be doing anything, she takes her chances and walks forward. Mia made it to the cave and slowly poked her head in, softly saying, "Is someone there?" Only to stop midway, finding a guy around her age and one who looked oddly familiar. Both stared at each other for a moment before it clicked to them, and the guy pointed at her and said, "You're the one I bumped into in the morning." Silence again. Mia noticed the awkward way his foot sagged and before thinking asked, "Did you hurt your leg?" The guy looked down and said, "Huh? Oh yeah, I fell off a slope and twisted it." Mia looked around, wondering what to do. She was not good in these kinds of situations. A few seconds passed, and she enters the cave and awkwardly asks if he was hurt anywhere else. The guy simply says, "Not really. It's just my knee, thankfully." Mia wonders if she should check on it, but then shakes her head mentally. You don't ask someone to show them their leg, even if it were to check on an injury. Besides, it's not like she could do much. This is probably a stupid question because you probably wouldn't be here if you had one, but do you have a phone? The guy showed her his cracked one. "It broke when I fell." Mia groaned. "Great. Just great." The guy continues. "I take it you don't have one either?" Mia sighs and says, "Left it at home." They fall back into silence. The guy, trying to reduce the awkwardness, says, "I'm Ace." And Mia, after a minute, says her name. Why did I wait for a minute like some sort of idiot? Ace then continues, "Not that I'm any better, but how did you end up here?" Mia looked sideways and says, I just got lost on the way home." Ace didn't seem to buy the story, but didn't say anything. Ace then slowly says, "This might be weird, but I actually followed a butterfly here." Mia immediately looks back at him and asks, "A glowing small white one?" Ace looks at her and then says, "Yeah." Mia replied, "That's what happened to me too." She may have been a bit too hasty because she was now closer, and Ace scouted away and said, "I thought you got lost while walking home." Mia stopped and realized that she had indeed said that and hastened to make it look like she had just left out a part. "I mean, I got sidetracked by the butterfly and I lost my way while going home." From the look of it, she did not cover up properly, but Ace didn't question her further and just left it there. Mia mentally groaned. "I am such an idiot." Ace looked out of the cave. It was getting darker now. He came back in and said, "It's getting late now. Our families are probably wondering where we were." Mia nodded and asked him, "Do you think you could walk if I helped you? We should probably try to get out of the forest." Ace seemed to be a bit surprised. Maybe." Mia helped Ace stand up before helping him adjust the weight to his good leg. Once they got prepared, they went out of the cave. Just then, they heard the sound of something falling and some voices.